One of the topics that comes up in a funding year, and I'm not going to ask it in any specific way, I'm going to give each of our guests an opportunity to talk about it. But an important part of the Minnesota budget is K-12 education, or what I would call K-12 education. We now probably call it pre-K to 12 education. There are numerous issues that come up in the context of education. It's not just a funding question. And I want to give each of our guests an opportunity to talk about that issue, how they see it, what aspects of it are important to them, and what message would they like to send to their constituents. And so let's start with you, Senator McEwen. K-12, pre-K-12 education. Your thoughts?
I'd like to see Minnesota be, again, one of the premier educational centers of the world. And when I say that, I mean pre-K through university, through public university. I think that we have the resources, we have the expertise, we have professionals, the know-how to be able to provide free to the user at the point of service or very low cost public education, pre-K through 4-year public university. That is what we should be doing in Minnesota. Many of our peer nations did this years and years ago. It's not rocket science. And this is the kind of thing that a good society provides for its people. So I'm thinking big when I think of education. I'm thinking about how do we provide comprehensive education for our people, starting when they're very, very young and all the way through university or through the trades as well. We talked a little bit about alternatives to going to the university. So 2-year colleges, trades, training programs, and the like. Those things should be free or very low cost to the people who are qualifying to get into those programs. So that's what we should be shooting for. We have the wealth. We are a wealthy state in the wealthiest nation to ever exist on the planet. And many of our peer nations have done this years ago. So we should do that. That's what we should do.
Representative Baker.
Ooh, that's a lot. That's a lot of freebies there because there's no free lunch in my world. Again, we pay a rich property tax in our state. We all pay those when you have some property that you own. I agree, though, that we need to do some better, smarter funding with our schools. I do believe we need to invest more in our social workers in our schools. We need to have more teachers. And I think the earlier teachers, when they get into the classroom, should be paid better. I don't think that our teachers just out of college for the next 5 years should be paid what they are today. I've been saying that from day one since in the letter that we need to pay our newest teachers more. And we need to find new ways of doing this. I think to attract more people to the industry is another great concern. We've been trying to find ways of recruiting teachers of color. We're not getting people that are grabbing onto it. Largely, I think because the challenges of being a teacher today is nothing short of very difficult. Having just the summers off is not sometimes enough of a break for what they go through for the school year with the challenges that teachers have. I have a bill in this year that's getting a lot of chatter. Hasn't gotten a hearing yet, but I talked to the chair this week about this, and she's definitely considering hearing. But to allow our local school districts to work through the issue, should we do a 4-day school week? There is a number of schools in Minnesota that have done this for the last 12 to 15 years. They have gotten kids through K through 12 through the entire system on 4 days. They typically go Tuesday through Friday. And it's not the right decision for all school districts. It's a very complicated question to ask about daycare, transportation, school sports, but a number of schools have done this, and they would never go back, according to the administrators and the families. They really like it. Teacher collaboration is better. There's the recruiting for teachers in those schools with 4 days. They are not short of teachers in those school systems right now that have 4 days. There's some, again, it's not for everybody, but I think the school districts, the school boards should make that decision, not the commissioner of education. And that's where that lands right now. And they've not given anybody that exception. So I just think there's a lot of rethinking education here in Minnesota. And it's not all about the money. I'm certainly supportive of doing some good stuff this year, social workers, but we have other things to think about how we can get our kids the best help they can.
Senator Weber.
Well, once again, quite frankly, I think government has become the problem in education. The mandates that we have put on our schools always cost more money than they are ever receiving. We go back, and this goes back not only to the state government, but to the federal government. For many years, our schools have been underfunded from the federal government for our special education programs. And that's money that they have to make up somewhere else because they're required to provide those particular services. And so as we look at the current situation, even as we look at all the bills that are going through the legislature right now, we see another intense spending demand being placed on our local school districts. Earlier, it was mentioned about the family leave bill. This is going to cost all local units of government millions and millions and millions of dollars, including our school systems. I had a smaller school system sent me an outline of what they're looking at, what they need to do in terms of hiring additional people. And they went through all the added costs that are being provided them with the mandates that are coming through the legislature this year. And we're looking at a situation that is many, many hundreds of thousands of dollars for this small school system. And they said, there's no way we're going to get that kind of money from the state, and we don't have the money to do it. And so I think that, we have to be realistic in what we are expecting. We have to be realistic in what we are requiring. And while there's going to be additional money spent for education, we also have to take a look at the other side of the equation and what are we forcing them to spend. And that has always been a problem, and it's becoming an even larger problem right now.